Asbjorn N. Haugsy was born November 28, 1873, in Ullensvang, Hardanger, Norway. In 1892, at the age of 19, he came to America and settled in Garretson, South Dakota. On July 26, 1896, he married Ingalief Aga. Osborne and Ingalief went on to have 4 children. The oldest of the 4 died at the age of 2. The second oldest was Martin G. Haugsy, who was born on November 7, 1898. Daughters Inga and son Johnny followed in 1902 and 1906, respectively. Martin Haugsy was a fine boy. He grew up in Garretson, and like most kids of that time, he had many friends, and they entertained themselves with games and playing sports. Martin especially enjoyed baseball. He attended school in Garretson, where he was a good student and athlete. He also was active in the band, and in 1907 was elected band secretary-treasurer. Martin also assisted his father as a plasterer and cement worker, and for some time worked as a clerk at the Wanksness store. When the United States first entered the war, Martin was very anxious to enlist, as he wished to take part in the great struggle. However, on account of his youth, his parents tried to dissuade him. But when the company was being organized at Laverne, Martin received the consent of his parents to enlist. He went over there with a bunch of Garretson boys on the evening of June 10th, 1917, and enlisted in A Company of the 2nd Minnesota National Guards. That was later changed to the 136th U.S. Infantry. At this time, Martin was 18 years old. The company was called out July 18th and drilled at Laverne until September 27th. Then they started for Camp Cody at Deming, New Mexico. From that time until June 1918, they drilled in the sands of New Mexico, and Martin was always on the job, doing his share of the work and drill without thought of complaint. He was universally liked by both his officers and his fellow soldiers, and he was one of the best drilled soldiers in the company. Those days after Martin's departure found Asbjorn and Ingalief longing for and anxious to hear from their eldest son.
Asbjorn, what are you pondering about?
Oh, Ingalief, I'm just thinking about Martin. It's been quite some time since we've heard from him. I know he's busy with training, but I'd love to know what he's doing and how things were going.
Maybe this will cheer you up. It's just what you've been waiting for.
Ingalief, you read it to me. I'm too excited to read it.
Kansas, June 17th, 1918. Dear folks, now while we are on the train and have got lots of time, we'll try and write a few lines, although it is pretty hard writing. We left Camp Cody Sunday morning the 16th at 10 o'clock, and now Monday, 6 o'clock, we are at Hutchinson, Kansas. Our whole company or regiment did not leave Cody. They took so many privates out of each company, out of the Garretson bunch. Harry S., Eddie J., Alan A., and Pink S. are left at Cody, and we sure hated to leave them behind. Maybe you read in the papers how the governors of Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska went to Washington, D.C. to see if they could not keep their troops from being split up. But we are glad they were split up, or any old way just to get out of Cody. When we left yesterday, it was nothing like when we left home last fall, although the captain felt pretty bad about it and had a few tears in his eyes. But the soldiers all said, "You lucky devils, we'll be with you someday." When we got to El Paso yesterday, the Red Cross met us at the old depot and gave us cards and lots, and last fall they gave us coffee and sandwiches. From El Paso, we went north through New Mexico and woke up this morning at Dalhart, Texas, where we started to see a few crops, but now we see them all over, and I feel like myself again. To tell the truth, I never did feel like myself down there in the desert of New Mexico, or as we called it, the hell on earth. I don't see how the people can stand it down there all the time, but these green trees and crops sure make me feel fine. We are now pulling out of Hutchinson, and we sure got cheered there, but we do all along the line. Wish we could pass close enough to home so you could see me, but we're not allowed to telegraph ahead or tell the people where we are from or where we are going. But I'll tell the world I'm going home someday. We will pass through Topeka sometime tonight or in the morning, and I think we will go through Kansas City. Well, folks, as it is pretty rough writing and warm, I'll close hoping you are feeling as good as I am. From Martin. If you cannot read this letter, don't blame me as the cars are swinging back and forth and onward.
Oh, that makes me so much feel so much better. It's good to hear from him. I can almost see him riding on that train.
Oh, me too. It is nice people are cheering him along the way. I wish they were coming here.
Two months have passed, and Martin's regiment has been sent across as replacement troops to fill vacancies caused by casualties in the armies that were already on the other side. They arrived in France July 16th and were started at once for the front line, arriving there on the 21st of the same month. Martin and most of the men from the old 136th were placed in the 165th Infantry, a part of the famous Rainbow Division.
Asborn, we've received another letter from our dear Martin.
Dear folks, I will now try and write a few lines to let you know that I'm feeling fine and happy, hoping you are the same. At least we'll take it that way, as the last letter I received from home was when I was at Camp Merritt. I suppose John and Inga have started school this time of year that the letter reaches home. I imagine John has been on the farm all summer and is nearly as big as I am now. Have you heard from any of the boys down south lately? I wish Inga would write Alan, Harry, and Eddie and greet them from me, give them my address. Maybe Harry was up there this summer as he expected to get a furlough. Is Clarence still in the store, or has he found the Navy as he told me he was going to do? The regiment I'm in now is an old New York regiment, and mostly Irish fellows, but they are a nice bunch. Well, folks, I'll now close, hoping to hear from you someday in the future. With love, your son, Martin Hougsey. Oh, it's so good that he's fine and happy.
We will have to have Inga write the boys right away. It was so good to see Harry when he was home.
It was. I wish Martin could have gotten a furlough to come home, though.
Oh, me too. Martin is right about how Johnny is growing.
Martin sure doesn't say much about what he's doing or how things are going.
Asborn, you know he wouldn't want us to worry. And besides, they probably don't let them write things like that.
Two more months have passed since Martin's last letter home. Asbjorn and Ingleaf, who had already lost an infant child, are devastated by yet another tragic event, the loss of their 12-year-old son, Johnny. Johnny had been working in the country and was taken sick with the Spanish influenza. Asbjorn and Ingleaf had been diligently taking care of Johnny for a couple of days, but called in a nurse when things started to deteriorate. The nurse did everything in her power, but nothing could save him. While still struggling with the recent tragedy, Asborn and Ingeleaf receive a letter from Martin.
Somewhere in France, October 13th, 1918. Dear folks, I will now try and write a few lines to let you know that I am feeling fine, hoping you are the same. Received Inga's letters of the 9th and 20th, and it sure made me feel good to receive mail from home. The last letter I received on France was from Laura Kay, mailed July 1 and addressed to Camp Merritt. I have not had time to answer it yet, so you greet her from me and tell her and the rest of my friends to write. Also Clarence and Rudd. Passed through a French village the other night where Joe Lucy and Martin Halderson were, but did not get to see them, but talked to a few fellows from Sioux Falls. We would like to be home so I could have some of the tomato preserves Ma is making, but just save some for me. It is all right with me if Inga uses my horn, but I wish you would take up something different. If you use it, please take care of it and ask Melvin W. how to take care of the valves and pull out the slides. I'm enclosing a slip so you can send me a box of sweets for Christmas, and don't send anything that will spoil. As there is not much news, I will close now. With love, from Martin Halsey.
Oh, Ingeleaf. When Martin was writing this letter, our Johnny was still alive. He probably doesn't even know of his brother's death yet. It's good to hear from him, but not even that's making me feel good right now.
Martin will be so sad when he hears the news of his brother dying. I must get a package sent. I will include some of my tomato preserves, so he will at least have a little taste of home.
I sure hope this war is over soon so our Martin can come home.
The war was indeed over soon. The 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. It has now been several months since Asbjorn and Ingeleaf received their last letter from Martin. There are rumors and reports of Martin being injured and other rumors of him being captured by the Germans. Asbjorn and Ingeleaf are still distraught about the loss of Johnny and fearing that something has happened to Martin, as he has always been very prompt about writing. It is the evening of March 18th, 1919.
Ingeleaf, I can't take all of this. My heart is breaking.
Oh, Asbjorn, I do not know what to tell you.
2 of our children have been taken from us, and now we've not heard from Martin for months.
Asbjorn, I know it is not like Martin not to write, but we have to stay strong and believe that he is okay.
I know, but it's so hard. It's a telegraph from the Adjutant General in Washington. It is with regrets that we inform you that your son, Private Martin G. Hogsey, was killed in action on October 15th, 1918. Ingeleaf, our son is dead.
Shortly thereafter, the Hogseys receive a letter from the governor of South Dakota.
April 21st, 1919. To the party addressed. The enclosed memorial certificate is presented to you as the nearest of kin of one of South Dakota's boys, who so willingly went forth into the great war struggle and who will never return. It is sent to you with full appreciation of the debt humanity and civilization owe to those whose lives were sacrificed in the great cause. And you may be assured that even as the highest peaks of earth are first lighted by the splendorous sun, thus also will the memory of these boys be first illumined and unceasingly rekindled by the gratitude of a state and nation. With assurance of my regard, I am sincerely yours, Peter Norbeck, Governor.
Around this same time, members of the American Expeditionary Force were convening in Paris to discuss what would eventually become the American Legion. The organization was founded in the summer of 1919 and began publishing a periodical called the American Legion Weekly.
Asbjorn, you're pondering again. What's on your mind?
I just can't stop thinking about Martin.